Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Italy Travel Podcast. I'm Darcy Melton.
And I'm Nathaniel Mellor.
And today we're talking about Ravello.
One of Amalfi Coast's most interesting and honestly least traveled towns, I would say.
Yeah, famous, but lesser traveled. And before we get into it, as always, we want to thank all of you for following and leaving reviews. If you enjoy this podcast, you can follow and leave a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you listen to podcasts. A big old thank you to Ariel and Austin, our Rigatoni tier members. If you want to support the podcast, you can go to patreon.com/the Italy Travel Podcast. You can also go to onlyabag.com if you're looking for more information. We have lots of articles written by myself and Nathaniel. You can contact us there or join the chat on Patreon.
Thank you all so much for your support.
Thank you so much.
So, Ravello. We haven't actually... I think we've only ever mentioned Ravello briefly when we talk about the Amalfi Coast. We talked about sort of getting around the Amalfi Coast, and we've talked about how Ravello is physically out of the way compared to, well, every other town, because every other town is actually on the coast.
Actually, there is one other, Tramonti is not on the coast. It is up in the mountains.
Fair
and
enough.
then Scala, which is kind of a different town, but it almost feels like a suburb of Ravello,
Okay.
I think.
I always imagined Ravello being like kind of the one outlier, but yeah,
I think it seems that way because it is famous, and from photos you can see that it's not on the coast. So many of the photos are of you overlooking sort of like mountain view
That's
over the
true.
water. And I think a lot of people don't know about Tramonti. So
To the people of Tremonti, I apologize. I did not forget you, but I simply overlooked you momentarily.
simply forgot you guys didn't have a beach. That's all.
Honestly, that did play into it tremendously, yes. So Ravello, though, is what we're talking about today.
Yes. And we've only visited once. And I think that's part of the reason that we haven't really talked about Ravello before. We just didn't know that much about it. And we have visited now, and it was really lovely.
It was far different than what I had expected, if that makes sense.
In what way?
I think it was just, it ends up, I think, on a lot of people's trip for good reason. It is genuinely a beautiful little town. It is less, like I said, less visited, but somehow when you do look up like sort of potential Amalfi Coast itineraries, Ravello does show up on a fair number of itineraries. And I think because we've talked about the bus system before in the Amalfi Coast and how you have to essentially, one of the main modes of public transportation on the Amalfi Coast is taking that Città Sud bus from Salerno, and it goes all the way to Sorrento with a switch in Amalfi. And so when you're in Amalfi, you can switch either to go up towards Ravello or go over towards Positano. And if you're kind of running like a day trip and not a lot of time, it makes sense why you go to Ravello rather than the extra 2.5 hours or 2 hours towards Positano. So that
If you're coming from Salerno.
So I think that had kind of colored my opinion slightly of like, well, I didn't love Amalfi personally. I'm sure I did not make that a secret from any of the episodes we've talked about Amalfi. And I was thinking Ravello was going to be something like similar somehow, just sort of almost forgotten.
Yeah.
Almost sort of like, oh yeah, there's also that up there. Like Tremonti again. But no, it was just gorgeous. I mean, we're talking beautiful terraced vineyards sort of all the way down this mountainside. It's one road in, one road out, which I think kind of lends itself to this I don't know, almost hidden feeling. Even it's very much not hidden. I mean, it's very prominently on a ridge overlooking the Gulf, but there's a sense that it is hidden. Like it's just you're in between all these sort of vineyards and olive, not orchards, but I guess farms, trees.
Yeah, what do we call that?
Right?
An olive grove?
Olive grove? I think olive grove sounds a good one. And I don't know, there's a really beautiful situation there.
That is something that surprised me. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of the position physically, like you're talking about, of Ravello. There's I think it's even called the Belvedere, from the Piazza Duomo, the main piazza, the big church area of Ravello. There's sort of a ravine that you can kind of overlook. And there are, like Nathaniel's saying, incredible terraced gardens, or olive groves, they're not gardens. And it's so tidy looking, and there are so many of them. You don't see that, even though there are many terraced areas. There are lots of lemon groves and things like that all along the Amalfi Coast. It is quite particular and tidy looking and just gorgeous.
And they do have like, I mean, for those of you interested in wine, I know that region has their own, that region being not just Ravello, but sort of the Amalfi Coast has their own wine. And that explains where I think seeing the grapes there made sense
Yeah.
because when you go from, Positano or Amalfi or anywhere kind of
Isn't
there,
Furore famous for its wine?
I think there's a specific grape from Furore, or at least a wine, and it's a blend of two different grapes.
Yeah.
I think Fiano is one of the two grape blends.
And there's one that starts with a B.
Yes. Oh, yes. Biancolella?
Yeah,
Something.
Biancolella, I think, yeah.
And it's beautiful because you kind of, for me, I guess, you get to kind of see where maybe even like traditionally and historically where some of the food production and wine production would have happened. Because again, when you're around the sort of more, what I think people consider the Amalfi Coast in their head, Amalfi, Positano, you're thinking like, well, how did you survive?
Right, it's just too craggy and rocky. There aren't a lot of farms around there. It's just not possible.
Especially if you've visited Cinque Terre, which is a very similar sort of landscape, where you do see the terrace gardens, you do see the like, oh, that's where your farms were, and also you had the sea around some of those other ones in the Amalfi Coast. There isn't really like that sense. There's just,
you have to get more up into the mountains.
and that's I think where I was for the first time in Ravello, where I was like, this is just phenomenal. And even though I kind of going back, like even though it appeared on a lot of these itineraries, especially for like a day trip, I was pleasantly surprised of how few people were there.
That's interesting you say that. I don't know why I thought there were going to be fewer people there.
That's interesting. Oh, okay.
Or maybe
Okay.
not fewer people. Although it maintains a lived-in sense. It maintains this is a relatively small town with sort of city vibes. There are some things that cater more to tourists than I expected, and I can't even name that specifically. It's just when you're there, maybe there's a bar that looks more for tourists than for Italians, or this cameo shop is really for knickknacks and souvenirs, which is not to denigrate them or anything. They are great, but I don't know what it was. I think I had this naive sense that we were just going to find something like totally hidden and mysterious, which obviously is not Ravello. Tons of people know about it. It's very famous. It's, like you're saying, on a lot of, tourist itineraries. So yeah, I don't know. I think I was just expecting something slightly different in that way, and I wasn't disappointed at all. It was beautiful, but yeah.
It's
Does that make
interesting.
sense?
Yeah, no, I think so. Depending on what your perception is, dear listener, you might be going in thinking it's a hidden part of the Amalfi Coast, or that it's just another packed small town. And I think in either case, you will be pleasantly surprised if you go.
Yeah.
Especially for me, I felt once we kind of got away from that main piazza, from that main area,
Exactly.
it really did quiet down a bit. I mean, again, as you mentioned, there's definitely things for tourists. There are sort of a lot of as we've come to expect with any small town, like you get to like a crossroads, even a small like foot crossroads, and there's a bunch of signs nailed like or pasted on a wall saying like all the short-term vacation rentals are going this way or that way or up the hill, or and some of them have some of them are just hotels, but there's definitely a sense of like, oh, I see, okay, so this is all sort of for other people, which is totally fine if that's I know that, as we'll talk about, I think in Friday's episode, Ravello did struggle for a while with tourism, trying to find tourism, trying to bring people up from the Amalfi Coast. So it makes sense that, there is a sense of like, you have to sort of build things for other people for them to come. And at the same time, I thought it was, interestingly though, just, I don't know, it still felt lived in, I think, on a comparative level, looking at the other towns.
And it was also there was like a sense of elegance to the town.
Absolutely.
Again, I can't really specifically say what that is. There's a lovely cafe in the center, in the Piazza Duomo, and there are, cafes and bars everywhere. But this one has like the nice cafe seating, and they've put effort into making it look a specific way. And the whole town is quite tidy, which surprised me.
Absolutely.
Again, I don't know why, but and there are some really lovely trees as well that provide some shade in the Piazza Duomo. Sorry, I'm sitting there in my mind, is why I keep mentioning it. But it's a lovely, elegant, tidy, beautiful town.
Plus, you have honestly, we'll talk about it, I think, in a bit, but it's a great view, and it's also a little cooler up there.
Yes.
So if it is, if you're coming anytime soon, which we're currently in the middle of a bit of a heat wave, it will drop I think next week. So we're recording this on July 14th, and I think it's like by the 20th, it's supposed to drop 10, 15 degrees. However, if you're coming now...
In Fahrenheit.
Okay, 20 degrees Fahrenheit, probably like 10 Celsius, depending on where you are. But I do think it's a great place to be in the... I mean, if you're not a beach person, let me rephrase this. Go to the beach if it's hot.
Right.
But if you're not really a fan of swimming, or if you're not a fan of the beach, then...
You just need like some fresh air that's a little bit cooler.
100%.
Absolutely recommend Ravello.
Ravello is great. How do you get around Ravello, though?
Walking?
That was going...
Question mark?
Yeah.
Mostly walking. There are some roads, but I think it is predominantly walking, especially in the areas that will... I mean, it's not a huge town. You can walk around the whole town in a day, of course. But if you're...
Honestly, 45 minutes.
Yes. If you're popping in as a tourist, you're there for the afternoon to grab some lunch, see some sights. The area that you'll be in is all pedestrian walking.
And I think that is as my segue, that is the one caveat, is it's very walking heavy, and it's very much not as flat walking as one might hope.
Yeah, I agree.
There's a bit of incline, and there's just straight up steps. Once you get away from that main area, that main piazza, the overlooks, that just sort of we're going to talk about the villa soon, but I'm just thinking that main area where it's all kind of flat. Once you get away from there into the actual, I mean, not into the town, again,
But the more residential area.
But the more residential area, it does become mostly stairs and mostly uphill. I mean, and down, obviously then downhill, but mostly stairs.
Yeah.
So that is something to keep in mind, both for luggage. Some of the areas do have a paved incline, but for luggage, like it is a very steeply paved incline that you kind of roll your luggage up or down, but it's not the easiest place to get around.
No.
Like there's no way to really get a vehicle to a lot of places. They are in like a pedestrian only sort of sidewalk.
Yeah. So I think, so we had a private driver when we went, because we were with my workshop crew. And so we were dropped off in a little parking lot and then just walked up some stairs and into town. And that was pretty easy, but there were stairs involved. And I think where the bus drops you off is a similar area. So you will potentially have to walk up some stairs in order to get to the sort of center of the town, the tourist center. And once you're there, it's kind of a plateau. But like Nathaniel's saying, there is some incline, especially incline, decline, and stairs, especially in the more tourist area where you might be staying if you're staying there.
Yes. So how do you get to Ravello now that we've briefly talked about it?
So you mentioned the Cita Sud bus.
Yes.
That is a classic way to get there. I think that's the way a lot of people get there. And that is the bus company that you can use to get all around the Amalfi Coast. If you're coming from, what's the name of that place? Positano. If you're coming from Positano or Sorrento, you can take, Sorrento's all the way around, the whole peninsula, you can take the Cita Sud bus and you will have to switch very likely in Amalfi and then get on the bus to Ravello. If you're coming from Salerno or Vietri sul Mare, Maiori, Minori, on any of those towns, you also take the Cita Sud, and I don't think you'll have to switch. It'll just go up to Ravello. Some
buses do, some buses don't. I think Cita Sud uses their number system is like 5110 and 5120, something like that. That's like 5112, 5120, 5110. And some of the ones from Salerno will go straight up. Like I think it goes up either from Atrani or up from Amalfi. If you look at a map too, just for those of you who are more of a visual learners, I guess, Ravello is sort of directly above Atrani, quite literally above physically, but the road to it, because you have to kind of go up on an angle, is more from like Amalfi than it is from Atrani. So that it's just because you have to kind of go up.
You have to go around the mountain, sort of.
Yeah. So it's hard. I mean, I guess that's not that hard to explain. I explained it, but you kind of do have to backtrack slightly, is what it feels like. But there is, I think, one bus at least, and it runs a few times a day, that you don't have to switch. The rest you do. So if you're diligent, you can get like a day trip in without having to switch the bus, which is really nice, especially from Salerno, because you might just have to fight in line in Amalfi to switch.
Getting the bus in Amalfi is an absolute nightmare. Just be prepared for that.
It is. Yeah. That can easily be the worst part of a trip.
Yes.
But then once you're in Ravello, I don't believe I think most buses go back towards obviously either Salerno or Positano. While there's another way out, you can kind of keep following that road. You eventually hit like a Nocera in Fiore or Angri, which is kind of on the other side of the mountain.
Do you think the buses would go that way if you're going to Sorrento, or
I don't think
only
so.
if you're driving yourself?
I think only if you're driving yourself. It's
Okay.
too far east. Yeah, doing my measurements in my head, not measurements, directions. It's too far east to be useful, I think. I think you have to backtrack way too much because it goes up through Ravello and then goes pretty far to the east. So you have to kind of go way back west to get back to like the Sorrento area, let alone Sorrento properly.
Okay, that makes sense. And like I briefly mentioned earlier, you can hire a car, meaning you could rent a car and drive it yourself, or you could hire a car with a driver, which is really nice if you're able to spend that bit of money on that, because driving on the Amalfi Coast Road can be it can be stressful. It's stressful for someone like me. Maybe if you enjoy tight, windy roads and driving in traffic, maybe that's for you.
And that's actually on that note. Not that I have this written down, but sometimes on like Italy travel subreddits and things like that, people will post that they did rent a vehicle or a moped even and drove on the Amalfi Coast Road, and that was like their best part of their trip.
Oh, okay.
And I think because you and I come from that point of view of maybe not speaking to the masses, but like certainly like if I had to give broad advice, my advice would be don't do that. If I knew somebody well enough that like, oh, I know that you really like driving, or I know that you're a site, whatever it is, that could be more specific, because I think a lot of people, when they respond to people saying, oh, I rented a car, I rented a moped, I loved it, I love the Amalfi Coast Road, I highly suggest it. There are typically a lot of people responding saying, you're kind of like the exception to the rule.
It takes an adventurer.
It does. It takes a lot of concentration. It takes kind of not panicking when a bus is filling up both lanes. It also means kind of oftentimes the driver can't really look around because you do have a sheer cliff on one side and just a wall on the other. It often means too, like getting so far over, you might ding the car, which can be stressful for certain people who don't want to return a car that is super dinged up. And then even with mopeds, like sometimes depending on your license, I'm not entirely sure what you can rent, but it's not a very powerful moped. I think like I know like on a classic license here, like the B license, which is what like in America, which the regular driver's license, which it's not called a regular driver's license.
It has
That's
a
called
class, but I can't
D
remember,
or something. You can drive, basically it's like mopeds up to like that go up to 45 kilometers an hour, like 50 centimeters cubed engine, which is very small. And it just means like you're going like 30, 35 kilometers an hour. So it's like 15 miles an hour the entire way, which isn't bad, but it's also something to consider that people behind you will be frustrated.
Yes.
If you don't pull over to the side of the road, or if you don't, go into those little, they're like those little stopping areas to let people pass if there's traffic building up, because they won't necessarily go around you, because that creates such a dangerous place. Anyway, this is simply, I know it's a little bit totally off topic, but it is simply when we do recommend like, hey, you might not want to drive, it's more for there's a lot of rules around it. There's a lot of like when the car can be on the road, which days it can, which days it can't.
It's not relaxing. I think there are some people who are quite adventurous who would enjoy it. There are people who just really enjoy driving and the sort of problem-solving trickiness of driving. So if that is you, if your activity is driving, then that makes sense. But if you're just looking to get somewhere, I would not recommend driving on the Amalfi Coast. It's just very, very stressful.
It is without a huge upside.
Yes.
Like having the car is, I mean, when you say like, oh, but driving around Tuscany, there's a huge upside. It's having your car with you.
Yes.
And I think the Amalfi Coast, it's not. I mean, it's either really expensive to park, or you're literally pulling it off to the side of the road to grab a quick picture and hoping nobody hits it.
Yes.
So I think, not a huge upside. But if you did want to rent a car, you can drive to Ravello. There are also some parking lots, I believe, up there, as well as simply just doing what everybody else does, and you eventually pull off to the side of the road and pay to park.
Yeah, exactly. And while we're talking about traffic and things like that, I think, Nathaniel, you mentioned earlier, the road to Ravello specifically is one way in, one way out. There is a traffic light, and it essentially lets one lane go for 10 minutes and then the other lane go for 10 minutes. So no matter how you're getting there, whether it's by a hired car of some sort or by bus, you will be in traffic no matter what.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
that is because of the traffic light that they have to use in order to make that road work.
Exactly. It's not like a, oh man, there's bad traffic today situation. It's just every day, all day, there is minimum you're going to have to wait 10 minutes, but also factor that into your plan, because if the traffic is longer than 10 minutes, you might be waiting quite a bit just to like if you're in a line.
Right, of course.
And of course, everybody has their cars off while they're waiting because you're not going to waste gas or whatever. So you're just sort of sitting in a parked car essentially on the road waiting for your turn. But you might not catch the first light. That's all.
Yes. And you found an interesting way to get there, Nathaniel. You can also walk to Ravello.
If you're feeling particularly adventurous, you can indeed walk. It is straight uphill on stairs, seemingly fairly well maintained in the sense of like they are stairs. They are not missing stairs or falling apart or dilapidated, but they are still functionally just like some concrete stairs. And yeah, from Atrani all the way up to Ravello, there's a kind of a not as many switchbacks as one might like on so you're not like a nice.
So it's a bit steep.
It's a bit steep. It
Just goes straight up.
yeah, it doesn't really. I mean, there's a little back and forth where it's like, oh, that's kind of nice. But looking at people's photos of it, because I have not taken this myself, but looking at people's photos, you kind of have this beautiful view the entire time
Cool.
behind you, unless you're coming down from Ravello, in which case it is in front of you, and that seems like the easier option. Just it is again if you come down from Ravello, because it honestly that would be the version I take. It does leave you off in Atrani, and that might be difficult to find a bus. I know you can walk from Atrani to Amalfi technically, carefully, along the Amalfi Coast Road. And I know people do that because it's difficult to catch a bus in Atrani. Getting to Amalfi is a little bit easier. Rather, catching a bus in Amalfi is a little bit easier, but walking there, I think, requires you to walk through a tunnel at one point. It's a little bit...
So what you're saying is there's a footpath which is stairs from Ravello to Atrani, that's specifically for pedestrians.
Yes.
But then the path from Atrani to Amalfi, which you might have to take in order to just get to a bus, is a lot of it is a regular road with cars. Okay.
And I think too, I was looking at the Google Maps to try to figure out where they path you, and they seem to be pretty good about like, I'm saying this, if you have a car and you're driving, they seem to be pretty good about keeping you on the road. There's one way that they do recommend you take that does turn into a footpath at one point. So I'm not sure.
On Google Maps?
On Google Maps with the car. So I'm not sure if it's like, you should just park at this dead end street, get out and then finish walking for 20 minutes. But just be a little bit careful, I guess, is if I may recommend. Just double check that if you are using Google Maps or Apple Maps or Waze or something like that to get your direction there, that it doesn't just sort of leave you off, 20 minutes from where you're going down a dead end street, which is not unheard of in this country.
For sure. And have we mentioned yet the license plate situation?
I think a couple times, but it bears repeating.
So, I mean, in this episode, I don't think we have we?
I think I briefly mentioned that there is a license plate thing.
Okay, there's a license plate thing, you guys. So on the Amalfi Coast, only certain license plates, like even plates can drive one day, odd plates can drive one day. So if you are renting a car, be aware that you will not be able to drive every day.
Yes, it's usually if it's like the 22nd of whatever month, that means even number plates can drive that day. If it's the 23rd, it's odd number plates. I honestly straight up do not know if your license plate ends with a letter instead of a number, because it's supposed to be what it ends with. And so I'm assuming, I was like, oh, all license plate end in a number, obviously. And then I realized some of these end in letters. Is there an odd and even letter?
I don't think so.
Because A has a very odd vibe, but B, I can see B being even.
That's true. C, D.
I know. So I was like, is that what it is?
Oh, but F is not an even letter.
No, very
F is sharp. So that's a fun thought experiment.
This episode, this heavy hitting.
I wonder though if it's the closest number to the end.
And that could be simply it. And it will be something too. You won't be pulled over and ticketed or anything like that. You just will get a ticket in the mail. So if you're renting a car, the automatic cameras take a photo of the license plate and then send it to their car rental company, who will then send it on to you. So you might be like, oh, I didn't have any problems. I didn't even pay attention to the day. 4 or 5 months later is when you get $100-something ticket in the mail. Yep. So just keep that in mind. It's not the end of the world. It's just kind of to pay attention to slightly while you're, taking your tour
It's
around
just
the
sort of
Amalfi
another
Coast.
added stress for driving on the Amalfi Coast specifically.
Exactly.
And these are all, when we're talking about the stresses of driving, like Nathaniel said earlier, driving on the Amalfi Coast is quite specific. It is not like driving in Tuscany or driving in the countryside. It is very specific to that area because of the regulations, because of the traffic, because of the way they have to.
Because you're in Campania, I'll be honest.
Yeah,
I've
Campania
never.
driving is, I don't even know. It's a lot. It's
It
something.
is, people drive, Campania being like where Naples is, and a lot of the Amalfi Coast is either in Salerno or Naples, depending where you are. They very much drive like they don't have much more to live for. And they drive like that. They really sort of, they're kind of like, whatever happens, happens. I'm like, no, we could drive safe. And they're like, no, whatever happens, happens. And there's just a real vibe of
Chaos.
It's chaos. I will mention just on that, because we have been looking at cars. Apparently, Campania, this region, has the highest rate for car insurance. So just use that as a metric of how many accidents there are. So just be careful. That's all.
Yeah.
Take the bus. We always take the bus because it seems so much safer.
Yes.
And people give it a lot of precedence, and people allow it to pass when, just to get it out of the way. So weirdly, sometimes it ends up taking less time because the bus just kind of goes when a bus wants to go. Of course, too, I should add, just because we keep talking about how it's above the town, there's no boat to Ravello.
Oh, good
obviously,
point. Yes.
But
Also, no train.
also no train. Just to in case y'all are putting together a plan, or like, oh, I can take a boat to blah 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 blah. You can take a boat to Atrani. You can take a boat to Amalfi. You cannot obviously take a boat to Ravello. So just not reachable.
Yeah. And there's also no funicular or anything like that. It really is. You just have to take the road up there.
And so next week's episode will be on the sort of things you can do. But as a last note, I wanted to throw out my thoughts on, I think the last couple times we've talked about a place, we're like, who is this for?
Oh, yeah.
As a thing. I should say, if you're planning your trip, is this something you should try to tack on? Is this something you're not? Who do you think should or should not tack on Ravello to their trip?
That's kind of a hard
should I start?
question. You start.
Well, I was thinking more, if you honestly are doing the day trip on the Amalfi Coast, it really is not bad in terms of, if you are lucky enough or timing it properly or diligent enough to get the bus from Salerno straight to Ravello, it is a great way to cap off your day trip on the Amalfi Coast. There are some nice restaurants. We ate at one of them. Cannot remember the name of it.
Vittoria? We'll
Vittoria,
put it in the description. It was quite nice.
And there's some lovely restaurants. I mean, there's only a handful of restaurants, so it's
They're
not
really,
like,
yes, that's like part of the reason we're recommending this one, because it can be, there are so few restaurants, it's almost hard to know which one is right for you,
Exactly. There's some like a lot of pizza restaurants, but
Yeah.
like when you go by and just because you're not necessarily near like other well-known pizza places, the pizza genuinely looks very good, which
There's
is
one
wild.
that we were going to go to, but we weren't able to get a reservation, so we haven't eaten there, but I'll put that one in the description as well,
and
because we thought it looked good.
great. But so yeah, no, who it's for, I would say, like, if you have a lot of time in the Amalfi Coast, weirdly it might not pop into your itinerary simply because you might have more time to explore the other towns that are actually coastally situated. We say that, or even some places like Massalubrense, which is kind of near the peninsula tip near like Sorrento. So you might not end up there if you're spending like 2 or 3 nights on the Amalfi Coast. It just might be kind of a little out of the way and then back down. There's not really a way to incorporate it to a larger trip. But if you are coming from Salerno and you're thinking, we have a whole day, let's just go out. Maybe we can stop, go to the water somewhere. We can go up to Ravello for lunch, have a beautiful view, cool down, come back out. It seemed, I mean, for me, that would be kind of the how I would do it, like just in terms of an itinerary. But it is harder when you're in like Sorrento, for example, because
It takes a while to get to Ravello from Sorrento. It honestly takes a while to get to Ravello. It takes longer to get to Ravello than I thought it would have from Positano.
Yes.
So if you're coming from that side, it will take about like an hour to get there.
In a hired car, it took us 2 hours to get there.
From Sorrento.
About an hour and a half, give or take, from Positano. And that was in a very much the off season. The driver was mentioning this is very relaxed. Like, he's like, we have very little I mean, we were hitting traffic, and he was very clear, this is very relaxed traffic. In the height of summer, it might be, a couple hours just to get like from Positano to Amalfi, not an hour.
Speaking of our, who's it for, and also comparing it now in my mind to Positano. So whenever we visited, on the same day, we visited Positano and Ravello. We've been to Positano before. It was very, very crowded in Positano. We were packed like sardines on those tiny little streets. Ravello, well, I said that it surprised me a little bit, kind of how touristy it was. It was so much more relaxed, so many fewer people. So if you were comparing places like Amalfi and Positano to Ravello, it is way more relaxed. I want to emphasize that. Far fewer people. And Positano was a lot that day. And in terms of walking, Positano is much more straight up and down, a lot more stairs, a lot more intense walking compared to Ravello.
And I think your students, who are the 4 women basically between the ages of like 60 and 75,
Sure, yeah.
something in there, just to give you all an idea, they really preferred Ravello to Positano. We
Yes.
spent about an hour and a half in Positano, and they were all a little bit like, that was nice, but, you know, it was okay. And then they really, though, enjoyed Ravello. So just in terms of, I don't know, just giving kind of the idea of...
It's more relaxed, and there are activities. We'll talk about that in the next episode, meaning like there are gardens to go to, sort of historical sites. Every town has a church, so, you know, standard.
Every town comes complete with a church.
Exactly. But yeah, I would say Ravello is, I know it's generic. Ravello is for anyone in that it's nice and relaxed. It's cooler in the summertime. It's just that there's no beach. So if you're someone who wants to lounge at the beach and that is your prerogative, Ravello is not probably where you want to go. However, if you're basically anybody else and you're looking to be on the Amalfi Coast, have a beautiful view, and not be so stressed, because some of the, particularly Amalfi and Positano, can be a bit stressful because of crowds, I would say Ravello is a great choice.
And I would, as a final note on that, or my final note on that, because it does have that like sense that there's more breathing room. I do think if you are, obviously you should probably still check out Amalfi or Positano, especially if it's your one trip to the Amalfi Coast.
Yes.
You probably should, put that in there, just because it feels weird to come all this way and then not see the places that people go to. But it's a really nice kind of capstone to the day, if that makes sense. It's such a relaxing place. You don't really get, unfortunately, sunset necessarily.
No, like almost nowhere on the Amalfi Coast do you see the sunset.
Unfortunately, it's just the wrong side of the coast, but it's still relaxing. It's still lovely. You kind of get from there you can see the Cilento coast. It was funny because we were laughing, like we can kind of see the beach that we go to. Way in the distance, and it was funny because it was raining. In our town, it was raining, and you could see the clouds kind of over our... I'm like, oh, wow, it's pouring where we live. And it was such a beautiful sunny day. But it is definitely a nice place at the end, because it does offer that really nice comparison to the just frenetic energy of Amalfi or Positano.
Yes.
And then, this is just relaxing. But if you're coming from a place like Città, which we've talked about before, as a really relaxing beach town, like Erchie and Città are really lovely between Salerno and Amalfi, it could be even nicer, because you're kind of like relaxed beach, hectic Amalfi, I'm going to check out the church, I'm going to grab a pastry, I'm going to walk around, and then relaxing Ravello could be a really nice sort of way to, I don't know, mix up the trip, but also see everything without feeling like you missed like the important bits.
Yes. And without having what's the stress chemical in your brain?
That's the one.
What is that called?
Not serotonin.
Cortisol?
Yeah.
Yeah. Not having your cortisol pumping. Spike all the time. Not having those stress chemicals happening in your brain all the time.
It's starting to get shaky.
Yeah.
So that was all my thoughts on Ravello.
Me too. I think that was good. I'm excited. Next episode, we're going to talk about some specific things to do in Ravello. Not that you need anything specific to do. It's a lovely place to go and just wander around, sit at a cafe. But there are some specific things to do, and we're going to talk about it in the next episode.
Thank you all so much for listening.
Thanks for listening. Tanti abbracci.